All right, thank you for joining us for Elite Agent Trainings podcast. And we have a special guest that has at least a special place in my heart, Don Mendenhall. And Don, you got a special place in my heart simply because I've known you for so damn long. Not because you're special. And I want to make sure that we...
Ask my wife. We're good. We're on
We've been, Don and I have been throwing shade at each other. How long have we known each other now?
18-ish years.
18 years?
18 years.
Holy crap.
Yeah, you're getting old, eh?
Not you, though.
No.
So
I feel it
has been a long time, and we go way back to, I remember plate wrestling in the office. You almost put me through the plate glass window. I thought for sure the old man strength then would kick in, and I could take out a kid that was, 21? Were you 21, I think?
I bet you, coming home off a mission, fell into helping another guy start a business in the office.
Yeah.
And that would have been,
So you were in 21 or 22?
21 and a handful of months.
Yeah, and if I recall correctly, my old man strength didn't pull me through that.
No, it kicked in, and it got you up off the floor.
So we have a history, and it's fun to have you on here, Donald.
No,
Thank you for coming and joining us. Now, Donald has been one of my top agents throughout the years. He's been very consistent in his work. He has a very loyal client base that loves the service that he does, and he does some phenomenal things. But Donald, tell us why. You mentioned it a little bit. How did you get into this business?
So looking back, I would have to say real estate was never something I even thought of as a career.
Okay.
I thought I'd come home off a mission, do the same thing everyone else was doing, and jump into some school, and didn't know what I would do. You know, I'm not smart enough for any of that education stuff, you know. Right? But came home. I had taught myself Photoshop and marketing and different things going throughout high school. So I had taught myself enough to get myself in trouble, right? And so I was helping.
You've always been real tech savvy.
Yeah. So I started helping a gentleman, start his own business. He was starting his own business, and
Is this Alma?
Alma Butler, phenomenal individual, character wonderful.
Yeah.
But I started just helping him. It fell into a position with him, just helping him try to market. I believe it was a wholesale telephone company back in the day. And it was one of those things that's almost a barter club type feel.
Yeah.
To the point the concept's very difficult. Mm-hmm. And he was having more trouble selling it, in that position. And so it came to a point, we were actually using, in the same office space as Eric over in Legend Hills. And every time Eric's networks would crash, Eric would come scrambling out, and I'd go reset the router in the other room. And so when I realized the setup with this other gentleman wasn't working well, I told him, I said, I can find another job. At that time I wasn't married. I'm like, I can go get another job anywhere. And Eric walks past the desk and is like, no, you can't leave here. By that point, I kind of claimed the reception desk in that area as my office. Yeah. And I had my computer chained down because I didn't trust any of them,
I do remember that too. This is good memories, yeah.
But no, it was good. And so Eric hired me as an assistant, and for a minute, and I, watched these agents coming in, trying and failing. Mm-hmm. And, so what would a smart person do? A smart person would have got another job, but I stuck around. So, it's one of those things I saw them, and I realized that a lot of people were focusing more upon the paycheck than the person.
And you got a lot of free training too, because back then I was doing trainings there in the office, and I look at my old calendars, and it was, I don't know if it was every day, but at least it was every week, and you sat in on all of those.
I didn't sit in on a lot of trainings. I mean, it was
all of the initial ones. I remember you were there.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, then, of course, Eric. Yes,
True.
I remember your training.
You owe all your success to me, Donald, and don't try to deny it.
The percent I still owe Eric, apparently. No, I do. I do owe Eric, and I do appreciate
And I want
him.
royalties.
Royalties, that's what it is. Yeah. No, it's you and my mom. My mom, I think, claims 10% still.
Yes.
Royalties on my success. So,
she deserves it.
She deserves a lot. No, but so I kind of came in. I watched these agents. And I quickly realized, first, I didn't want to be an assistant. It just wasn't my thing. And I realized that you could be successful. I mean, I watched Eric's example a little bit here and saw that he was sincerely trying to take care of people. And that impressed me, because real estate naturally, as we all know, can be a cutthroat environment where agent for agent and I'm thinking, well, you need each other to stay alive. You need each other to sell each other's listings. When you've got 16 to 20,000 agents in our region on the MLS, it's going to be another agent that sells your listings.
Yeah.
So to watch this cutthroat nature just was not my thing. But watching that you could sincerely take care of people and do a good job and make an incredible living intrigued me. So very quickly, I couldn't stay under Eric's thumb for too long. So I quickly got my license. And actually at that time we were, and I'll share something here that Eric, I don't think he remembers or knows, but at that time we had just set up, Eric and I had found a setup with Stringham schools and started putting people through the school, from the office. So they have to
Right.
watch the VHS tapes, and
Yeah.
I'd have to track them.
I remember that.
Yes, and I'd have to track there and say, okay, yes, they sat in that room for 2 hours watching a VHS that bored the heck out of you.
Yep.
And so at that time, so I put several agents through the school, and then they just went and took their tests. And when it came time for when I started taking it, it was not physically possible. So what Eric doesn't know is, he authorized me to go put myself through school as long as I charted my time and actually watched the videos, which was no problem. I was happy to
Right.
do it. But he sent me home to watch the videos. So I actually put myself through real estate school eating popcorn from a love sack in the house that I was eating. So that stays here, everyone. No, but that's
Not anymore, does
no,
it?
it doesn't. No, but it was awesome, and I learned. I mean, I watched it quickly, and like we all learn, school does you nothing in the real world. But it
Right.
was, I got through it and quickly got my license, and at that time, Eric had another family member that needed a position, and Eric, being true to his word, he was like, "Hey, I'll keep you on. I told you I'd keep you on as an assistant as long as you wanted," and understanding that this other individual needed his help more than I did, it was a sink or swim thing for me. And so I said, well, if I'm not going to be successful now, I need to be doing something else.
Yeah.
So I jumped in, and I said it was sink or swim, and I chose to doggy paddle for a little while. But that's kind of how I fell into it. So
Now I still, when I'm teaching new agents, I bring you up almost every time.
for bad
Because-
examples.
No,
Oh, okay.
no, because how many cold calls have you done?
I can't think of a cold call. No, I
Yeah.
mean, there was a handful
you-
early on, maybe.
you may
but
have,
There was an
maybe.
accident. I dialed the wrong number.
What
Just like-
what I use you as an example of, and I tell people this is a people business, just like you said. It's all about people. If you make it about the numbers, yeah, you might get a couple deals, might be even a couple big deals. But if people sense over time that you're not caring for them, then they don't come back to you. They don't value you. So it is very much a people business. That's where our true value comes in, I believe. I mean, yeah, there's complicated legal contracts. There's the personality conflicts between buyers and sellers, between lenders, appraisers, contractors, all that stuff. We're navigating a lot of different things here, and a lot of it comes down to this personal stuff, right? And one of the things that, and this is how I bring you up, is that from day one, you have never been afraid to talk to people. And I tell people all the time, I don't care how you talk to people. You can knock doors, you can pick up the phone and cold call, you can do whatever. But I said, I've got this agent, and you can't. I said, I've gone to conferences with him, and we stopped to fill up with gas, and he's talking to the guy filling up gas next to us, and he's giving him his card. And we go to eat at a restaurant, and by the end of the time, the waitress and the restaurant manager both have his card, and he's got their
I
numbers.
needed the rolls. It was free rolls. Okay.
So you're my example of, look, you can do it. To me, I did it a structured way. Like, okay, I'm going to set aside 1 hour to do this, and I'm going to force myself to do it because I'm just not naturally as personable as you, right? For me, I had to force myself. Okay, this time slot, I'm going to do this. For you, you've never had to do that. It's just.
Let me rewind. Everybody.
That's my perception of it. Tell
and
me
I have
your
to put on
version.
that perception for Eric, guys.
Okay.
How this goes. But no, to give you an idea, I mean, everyone's going to have uncomfortable conversations. But you have to remember, so when I started, I jumped into this in 06.
Yeah.
September of 07, subprime died.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't get into.
Oh,
so,
everything died.
Yeah, no, and so, but you have to understand. So for me, it was a matter of, okay, you talk to somebody, or I'm going to need to go do something else for work. And so I started that way. And yes, you'll have some uncomfortable conversations, but let's even take from 08 to 2012, right? When subprime died and markets tanked and everyone's, well, no one's buying or selling, right? You know, we look at that last recession compared to now. You know, it was interesting because in that I remember a very specific, and Eric gives me a lot more credit for talking to people than I do now. My wife wants me to hold back from pulling the restaurant manager in over the meals, or have to designate whether it's a personal meal or no. But like I remember, I was pulled into a gas station in Woods Cross, and I remember thinking, oh, you need to go pay inside, and I thought, oh, I never pay inside, and I probably should still do that every now and again. I'm not one that buys the drink or whatever else at a gas station, but I went in and handed her a card, and if you know of anyone, right, and took that, and she points to herself. Sold her home in Roy in about 5 weeks.
Really?
And this was and you think I would pay in the gas station more, but I haven't since then probably paid inside for the gas. But it was one of those things that so as much as people wanted to say, oh, no one's buying or selling, everyone talks about it. You can go sit down in anywhere and you'll happen to fall across agents at the table next to you talking about real estate, or individuals talking about buying or selling.
Owning a home's the American dream.
It is.
Everybody dreams about it. We all talk about it.
And if an average home, and now that's stepped up, the average time in a home, it's moved up a little more than the 7 year it used to be average. But if 7 years is an average, everybody knows somebody that is buying or selling. And so I'd start off, and I started off early on with just pulling the card. Hey, is anybody, do you know of anyone looking to buy or sell? Or if you know of anyone. But what was wrong with that question? And I share this when I'm training up new agents all the time. When I say, well, if you know of anyone,
So when you ask that, it's really, you're giving the card away. It's easier for them to say, oh, thanks, yeah, I'll think about it or whatever. But then you've got a better way of phrasing it.
And I learned quickly that was the wrong question. So I'd ask that question and someone would sit there quiet. But if I followed even that poor question, if I followed with the next question of, do you know of anyone right now looking to buy or sell?
Yeah.
All of a sudden they would chime in and they'd say, oh yeah, well, my sister over here is looking. And so then I'd say, okay, well, take a card for you and for her, and I'll give them a couple cards. But then the other battle with that is they've had good feelings with you. You're sitting there in person with them. They've had good feelings, but those good feelings are forgotten the next day. They truly intended to pass your name off to their sister. And they aren't going to be unloyal and give you the sister's phone number. So what I always say is I'll ask them, I'll say, okay, well, if I haven't heard from your sister in a few days, are you okay if I give you a call back? And then I'd get their number. Okay, and then that kept the ball in my court.
That's good.
Because if not, they intended to, they had good experiences, but it's quickly forgotten and you're just...
Business card falls in the crack in their car seat. They can't get it.
The trash guy calls you and you're just like, you're not the guy I was expecting. Yeah. No, just kidding. No. But so I learned quickly that it's all about the question and sitting there. But the other thing that I think intimidates most new agents, and this is where a lot of our awkward conversations come, right? You're a new agent, you start in our industry, you're concerned, well, what if someone asks me a question that I don't know? That's legitimately your concern, and it's a good concern. But I always say you're backed by a good broker, you're backed by fellow agents that can happily be a resource for you. So I tell people, don't be afraid. Say, hey, my partner over here or my associate. So I tell them, if that happens, I am always going to be by far more impressed with the individual that says, hey, let me get back to you. My associate over here has a little more experience. Let me get an answer to that, and I'll follow up with you.
Yeah.
It's a great way to get their phone number and contact info. And it's also, they're going to be more impressed when you diligently follow up and get them an answer than the guy who just makes up an answer on the spot.
Right, because he's afraid of looking ignorant.
And so he looks stupid.
So instead he looks stupid. Yeah. Okay. And there's a difference between the two.
But when we find the responsibility, I've let someone have all day. Let them happily go and do homework to get me a right answer.
Yeah.
And I appreciate it more. And so know as agents that you're backed by good people, whether it's your broker or another associate in the office. Don't be afraid to say, hey, my partner over here has done this longer than I have, or my associate, and use them as the backing so that you're not scared to ask questions. So you're not scared to put yourself out there. Because it is. I mean, business cards, just putting them out there, asking that question, do you know of anyone right now? Or just being a service. So I went to a home show several years ago. I finally had someone talk me into attending and having a booth at this home show. I said, okay, if I'm the only agent in the room, I'll do this home show. And so I took it. But I also told myself I was not going to ask for business for the whole meeting, for the whole home show. So I paid to be in a home show, paid to be a booth. What kind of agent does this, right?
Right.
And I brought an artist. a watercolor artist friend of mine, and I free caricatures. So this was exposure for him, and it was exposure for me.
Yeah.
So people came in, and he would sketch them, and I was just there as a resource. Your real estate resource. And I let people come and had some incredible conversations, educated people, which I know led to future referrals and things. But I set the goal that I wasn't going to ask for a single bit of business. Now, yes, this is contrary to a lot of things, and I would say most deals you're going to have to ask for. So don't be afraid to ask. I don't want to contradict some of Eric's teachings over here. But
I've always taught actually that there are many different ways to the top of the mountain, and so that's one of the reasons I like to interview different agents is people can see a different perspective, and from one person they see somebody that's really structured, and from somebody else they see somebody that's their structure could use a lot of work, but they're so personal and friendly, and there's different ways to do it.
No, but understand most of the time, if you don't throw your hat in the ring, if you don't tell them what you're there for, hey, I'm here to help you list your home. I'm here to help you with this and answer their questions and bring some value to the table. They're not even going to consider you. They're going to say, oh, that was a great friend. That was great. But why should I give business to this person?
Courage and the ability to take no's. Like how many no's can you get before you get to a yes, right? That, to me, I think that's one of the number one things that differentiate a successful agent. The guy that gets back up again, that puts himself out there, first of all. In fact, just this morning, I had a conversation with my son. We came up here, and I've got a quote over here on my wall, "The Man in the Arena." Are you familiar with that?
I don't know.
Theodore Roosevelt, check it out, "The Man in the Arena."
Okay.
In fact, you can look at it before you leave here.
Yeah, I will.
But it talks about the importance of being in the arena, not just the critic, the guy who looks at the guy in the arena and complains about how he's fighting, or the armchair quarterbacks or whatever. It's how important it is to get in and strive, and if you can valiantly strive, even if you fail, and this is kind of the last little part of it, that even if you fail, at best, you exceed everybody's expectations. You're achieving incredible things. And at worst, you fail knowing that you never have to lie down with those people that never even tried, and anyways, so I had this conversation with my son, and it's coming back here because the courage that it takes for you to talk to people, whether that's natural, inborn in you, some people it is, it's an inborn trait. They're just really easy to talk to other people. Or whether it's something that you work hard to develop, you've done it, one way or the other. You've done it. What do you think makes you stand out in your service to your clients? Because I know that, again, the way you've built your business, it's mostly referral business, right? And you're talking talking to people.
95% referral business.
Yeah. What gets people coming back to you? What engenders that loyalty?
It's definitely not my follow-up with past clients. I know I lack that.
Got work to do there.
I know I've got a lot to do there.
We talked to you about a training program, Donald.
Yes. No, but I know that. But the thing about it is, I'd like to say they know that I care on them on a different level. I mean, I had a deal that I go back, and it's still close to my heart, but I sold this home, and it had an indoor basketball court for a client. I still have the video, but they had an autistic son. And he was actually late in high school, some dear friend, late in high school, and Leighton High would bring him back out at halftime to shoot 3-point shots. But he still shuffled when he walked, graduated high school like 22. And so when this client reached out and I helped them sell their home and they bought this new home, I told them, I said, well, no, the basketball hoop is a gift from me. I get to do that for your son, Eric. Not because I liked his name or anything.
Of course not.
No, but it was the son. And so literally, my wife and I, and this is before our kids were old enough to need a basketball hoop, right? But so I think my wife was pregnant with probably our second son. But we bought, called one of my lifetime connections and got a discount for this hoop. Bought him a brand new hoop and went and assembled it. I think it took us 4 hours down in their basketball court of assembling this. My wife pregnant and the other kid running around the basketball court. But we had memories, and I have video still of this young man shooting the basketball hoops. And it was just something that really meant a lot to me, And it's interesting because I looked at, well, what kind of client gift could touch someone? What kind of, and it's not that I did that for any reason other than just the enjoyment of watching Eric shoot the ball. But it's funny because that came around full circle. I sold the house again 11 years later. Actually, So they actually decided to mount one on the wall, like a few years or 8 years after I'd sold them that and gave them the hoop. So they put a permanent one on the wall, and they called me and said, "Hey, do you want that hoop?" So the hoop actually came back from my boys. I had to replace a rim and a few things. So that came back. But just the feeling. So, I've looked and said, well, and I think about client gifts all the time. We all get those, and well, what gift should I give to every one of my clients?
Yeah.
And every deal is a different client incentive or gift for me. Every deal is, okay, what does that person need? What does that family need?
Because you're really getting to know.
Because I value it, and I want to see them successful. I want to see their kids successful. So I make it a point as soon as I go in there with them. And sorry if you're one of my past clients that's seeing this, but I take notes. I write down the husband and wife's name, and then I'll quickly, if I can get them to drop the name, I'll note down what the kids' names are, so that I remember. Because I truly do. I want to remember who they are. I want to be able to congratulate their little girl or their son, on what they do. And so I hope they feel that, and I think that they do. But it's one of those things that just bringing value to their table. When you're sitting down, when you're visiting with people, they need to know, and I think sincerely understanding that if you're doing as an agent, if you're doing the best you physically can and you're trying to save them money, if you're looking for their best interest more than yourself, then there's not going to be anyone out there that's going to take better care of them than you. So with that, if you truly believe that, don't you believe you need to talk to them? Because the next guy isn't going to take care of them. The next guy isn't going to negotiate the contract the way you would, and so that's kind of been my thing.
I've had that exact conversation the last 2 weeks at our live meetings up at the office.
You're saying I'm supposed to be attending those?
But yeah, I did. We've got one of our agents, and I keep saying, and she's like, I don't want to bring this up in a friend meeting, because, this is a gathering of friends, and I don't want to make it about business. And I'm like, the best friend that you don't have to make it about business, but it's okay to bring it up, because again, everybody thinks about real estate, and if you don't bring it up, they're going to think, well, maybe she's not really serious about it or something like that. And the best friend that you can be is the friend that they rely on when something big like this comes up.
Okay, so
because if they don't have you, they're out there shopping for somebody they don't know, they don't trust.
Let's take that for a second, because I think everybody has so a lot of agents, they're trained up. Go to your book of business. Go to your friends and your clients and tell them you're an agent. Tell them that was my thing. I couldn't have done that, because I did. It's natural that we don't like real estate agents, right?
No, I love real estate.
Okay. No, but inherently, we don't want the person that hounds us every day or every time we see them to be around real estate.
You need to add value.
It needs to be a personal feeling. But so years ago, I sat and I said, okay, well. And again, I didn't do a lot of marketing to begin with, but the question was, well, do I put myself out there in my neighborhood, in my geographical boundary that we all create for ourselves, right? In certain ward boundaries or whatever, do you do that? And for a long time, that was a question, and I think agents still have that question, is it, because they don't want to overstep anything or confuse.
Right.
But just like you said, imagine the dialogue if it's different. Okay, and I had a very personal conversation with a neighbor yesterday where I called and said, hey, let's go for a walk. And it was a little more personal than that because of, situation, but it was a housing related need that I was trying to fill for them, and even more than beyond an agent. But to take it to a friend and give them the opportunity. Okay, so maybe you come in and you say, okay, Eric, yeah, I understand you're trying to sell your home, and you're getting concerned. You're gonna be pounded by a lot of people. There's going to be a lot of people that are ringing your doorbell, and I just want you to know I'm here as a resource for you if you have questions, okay? Or if you need help, I'm here, but don't want you to ever feel you have to, okay? So, you preface it that way, or, give them a little resource. It's like Eric and I used to do when we were training up for sale by owners. So we taught a period of time where we taught some community ed for sale by owners. Lasted maybe a month. I don't think we taught much more than that.
I did it for years.
You did it for a year or two before?
No, I did it for several years because I had been doing it with mortgage lending.
Oh, so I was just cleaning it up then when I came.
Yeah, you catch me with the tail end of it.
Or terminated it at the tail end. No, but I liked it. But one of the things that was interesting is we'd prep people. Line yourself up so you can say, hey, I actually have an agent over here, or, so you can eliminate some of but educating on them on what they expect and then leaving that door open for them.
What we did with the for sale by owners was we would say, you're going to get a lot of these phone calls, and a lot of people, one of the easiest ways to get them off the phone, if it's solicitors, if it's real estate agents trying to solicit a new listing, is to say, you know what, I want to try this myself for a while, but if I do decide to list with somebody, I've already got an agent in mind.
But the biggest thing is when you bring it to you'll prep them. So then now, if you've prepped the for sale by owner, so just picture that, your neighbor, you've now prepped them exactly what's going to happen when they try to do this on their own. You have a project, people are going to come in, calling you off the hook. Everyone's going to want to see your home. They're going to, whether they have an official buyer or not. And so you can say, hey, prep them, tell them you want a pre-approval letter before you come show your home, and understand when the agent shows up, they're going to be trying to market you for your listing. So now what happens? The moment someone shows up to your house, Eric, and starts trying to talk you into listing, who is that seller thinking about?
Yeah.
They're thinking about you because you just told them this was going to happen.
Yeah.
And so by being that resource and helping structure, you've helped focus them. And like Eric said, you could go so far as saying, hey, I'm here. So if you ever need it, just know, if you get tired of doing that on your own, just know that I'm here. And it doesn't have to be a consistent follow, but think about the difference to that. If we don't ever open that door, if we don't, maybe they're scared. Maybe they think we don't want to represent them, or we don't want to help them. And so if we don't open that door, it's the way we open it determines our success. But if you open it and if you as an agent go there with the mindset of, good, there's always another listing. So don't go there with the fact that you have to have that neighbor as a client.
Right.
Great. But if you go there with their best interest in mind.
If you go in looking desperate, nobody's attracted to desperation. You go in there with confidence and and confidence in yourself too. Like, hey, I'm here to help you, but if you're not going to be my next client, somebody else will be. But I'm putting myself out here for you. I'll be putting and if they say no, that's okay, because the next minute I'm putting myself out there for somebody else. Pretty soon somebody's going to say yes, and I'm going to get business.
Oh yeah.
The agent that fails is the one that says, I put myself out here for you, and you said no, and that hurt. And now I really hesitantly put myself out there for somebody else, and they said no. And now I'm questioning, is this even the business for me? And so I might try it one final time. And I think the last numbers that I saw is that most people, you need between 6 to 8 contacts before they say yes. And how do you do 6 to 8 contacts? First of all, you need to be somebody that cares about them to do those contacts, And yes, you could just care about money, and it could be just boom, 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 I'm making my calls. But if you care about that person enough, then you don't stop calling them. And I want to ask you one final question, though.
Yeah, please.
Just for the sake of the time with the podcast and everything, one final question for you. You've got a ton of experience. You've had an incredible career. You've done developments. You've worked with you've done big projects. You've done little projects. You've done a ton of stuff. What is the one piece of advice you would give to a brand new agent in this industry?
And I've given so much advice already on this thing. You're making me think.
I know.
No. Okay. No. For them, for anybody who's looking to improve what they're doing, it's all the sincerity. I'm trying to think of something more than just be sincere. You did say something a minute ago, and I'll try to, and maybe that'll tie in a little bit. But the comment about people thinking and focusing on, oh, I tried it, it hurt. Okay, understand that your value as an agent comes from you being able to think clearly and remove emotional attachment from a deal. Okay, whether that's acquiring a deal or completing a transaction. Negotiations, anything. And the moment you're money motivated, you're emotionally attached to a deal. Okay, the moment you're looking at a property and just seeing those money signs, or when you're sitting there, okay, or when someone says no to you. Okay, we all have that. We'll have dear friends that somehow go over here or think to try it on their own. And yeah, for a minute you'll be like, it's just human nature. We will say, well, why didn't they do that? And we'll try to justify away their actions or talk up ourselves. Again, emotional attachment. Okay.
You know what? I love that. I've talked to a lot of agents. Nobody has ever given that response, and I love it. It's 100% true.
But so your success. So like when I look at it, it's me helping to have that client of business make the best decision for them possibly. Okay, and that's how honestly my my land development, everything that way has kind of spurred from that, because I had a lot of landowners that would come to me trying to understand what their highest and best use of their land was. So I'd educate them on what that was and how to get there. And I even have a lot of agents from other brokerages that come to me to help complete their land deals. And so by having that business mind, it helps me look past, okay, the deal has to happen this month because I need that commission. I'm not thinking about that anymore. Yeah. I'm thinking about, okay, well, when is the best time frame for this client? Obviously, we all encourage home ownership, and because it is the best thing for them. But in the market where the 6.5% interest rate, it's painful.
It is painful, but at the same time, I work really hard to help people understand the value of being a homeowner. At the NAR convention that we just came back from in DC, statistically, the average net worth of somebody that's renting a home is about $7,000.
If they don't have equity from real property,
the average net worth of a homeowner in America, this is all across the country,
right now, perfect,
$300,000.
Yep, and so that's appreciation from the last 5 or 6 years.
However you get it, you got appreciation, you got tax savings. I mean, there's so much more than the payment.
It is. There definitely is.
But the things that you said about caring for the person enough to sit down, disassociate yourself from the outcome, and say, I care about you enough to do what's right for you. That's a perfect definition of a great real estate agent. So, Donald, I appreciate you. I appreciate you taking the time to join me. I loved your viewpoint on that. It gives me something to think about, because I've always advised agents to be less personally involved, and they'll call me up. They're like, oh, I'm so mad at this, and I can't believe this person's trying to do this. And I'm like, you have to take the emotion out of it. When clients are emotional and there's no agent in between, deals fall apart a lot of the time, because that has nothing to do with numbers. It's emotions, and deals fall apart. If you can be that buffer zone, that's one of the best values you can provide. I've been teaching that forever. But for you to come here and say that you take the emotion out of whether you get a yes or a no when you're asking for the business. Look, I'm here to help you. And if they say no, I don't get emotional about that.
And by taking the emotion out of it, you can cancel a deal when your client needs the deal canceled. When the due diligence doesn't go well, you can cancel that without an issue. Don't be afraid, even if it's not your fault. Things will go wrong in a deal. And again, I'm not saying legal responsibility. There's certain things that go wrong legally that you need to talk with your broker and work through. Right. But for the most part, there's times where something's going to go wrong. And who looks more foolish? The agent that accepts responsibility and fixes the problem, no emotions involved, just gets in there and fixes it, or the agent that is trying to justify and point fingers at the other party, even if it is their fault. You've come away building a relationship both with the other party and your title and your lenders and everybody involved when you just say, okay, well, we're here. We're going to solve it. You keep a cool head about yourself, and you just get the deal done. Okay? And you come away. Not only do you get the referrals from that deal, but all of a sudden you became the utmost professional in the room.
Yeah, you look like a pro. So
thank you,
Well,
Aaron.
Donald, thanks for joining me here today. I really appreciate your time and for being a part of this, and appreciate you especially for the last nearly 20 years being a friend.
Now I feel old. Okay. Thank you, Aaron.
Thanks. And that's a wrap for today's episode. We hope you found the discussion valuable. Remember, if you're looking to take your own real estate career to the next level, be sure to visit eliteagenttraining.com for our exclusive training program. It doesn't matter if you're a brand new agent or a veteran in the industry. If you're looking to increase your business, this program will get you there. Thanks for tuning in, and don't forget to subscribe to our podcast for more valuable insights and tips. Until next time.